All right. So questions. What are the questions coming up for boundaries, nervous system regulation, identifying what you want and what you need? What are your current goals? What do you want to be excited about? All of those things we can dig into. Plus anything else that you have going, any complex life circumstances you want to dig into. So if you are navigating a shift in schedule in May and you have ADHD, you have a chronic illness, you have fucking perimenopausal roller coaster.
Or you're getting ready. So here's the other thing. So summer is coming, and I know it's supposed to be a happy time, but I haven't found it yet. And so
It's not true.
fucking the summer stress is too much. But there is a huge schedule shift that comes with summer. And so if that is starting to stress you out now would be a great time to talk about it so that we can establish nervous system regulation practices, so we can establish some boundaries. So maybe we can identify the places that are actually really scary. Um, oh, there's so much happening. When you say your life is spinning out, that means a whole lot of different things.
Let's say the question because people
Sure.
watching may not be able to see it. Any tips on moving forward with life, work goals when your life is spinning out?
So which area of life, work goals is the part that feels out of control right now? Because it's not ever everything exploding all at the same time. It's one thing that then gets all over everything else because we're dysregulated. Home crisis. Okay. So um with there being a home crisis, is it a life shift home crisis? Is it a temporary experience?
Well, let's talk about like how is it impacting your day? Like when you wake up in the morning, how is this home crisis impacting your schedule, like your ability to make decisions and follow through with them, and your mental, emotional, physical well-being? I have a new neighbor, there's drama there, new having to continue work and growth with work. So is this a boundaries conversation, do you think? If there's a new neighbor and there's drama there, do you need more distance? Do you need help learning how to, or wording how to put distance there? Do you find yourself distracted and triggered by this new neighbor? I feel like my home life is set on fire, but no time to spend out on it. Distraction triggers. Okay. So a couple of things to consider. One is physical distance is oftentimes one of the most simple ways to do the things you need to do. So I don't remember where you live in the world, but ideally the weather is changing for you where you are as well, like it is here. Permanent living in fun. So it may be that a couple things. If you're living in an apartment and it's a not person who lives in your actual apartment, then earplugs is a really inexpensive way to shift your sensory experience. If you don't have noise canceling headphones, earplugs. And that seems really basic, but if you can't hear the drama, it becomes way easier to stay focused on what you need to be doing. The other option is to go somewhere like the library or walk to a bench in the park or wherever, if there is an opportunity for you to remove yourself frequently from the physical implication of that, then it's going to give you less sensory input to have to overcome. One of the important things to know and not remember, because this is not something we were all taught, is that what your body is doing is it is hearing, feeling, sensing, smelling, whatever the experience is for this environment. And it's making a prediction on what your body needs to do based on your past experiences and your current circumstances. So if you can change the current circumstances or alter your interpretation, your body's interpretation of them to some degree, then you'll have a different experience for yourself. You'll have a different opportunity to decide what to do. Is when you say work, is it on a computer? Is it on phone? Like, what does your work require you to do? Work from home computer.
Do you feel unsafe? Like in a real life kind of I'm unsafe kind of a way? Because If so, and you live in an apartment, I also want to suggest that this is something that you take to the super. Okay.
No, just
I just want to make sure that we're addressing this
actual,
appropriately.
yeah,
Um,
good catch.
so I think really leaning into what Tasha's talking about here, like really, really creating for yourself safety mechanisms within your environment to be able to keep you doing what you want to do. So noise canceling headphones, and if you can't afford noise canceling headphones, honestly, go to a hardware store and get ear protection, because those are meant to keep out the sound of power tools, and they are like $10. But being able to listen to those while you have earbuds in, so they're covered while you're doing your work so that you can keep going, I think is a great way to like give yourself a workaround on this. Also, if you are feeling as activated as you describe, then nervous system regulation is going to be really important. Like it being quiet and you still being stressed out about the fact that it's loud outside of your headphones doesn't do you any good. And so it may be that while you're wearing your headphones or while you're on a walk away from your apartment, you need to do some nervous system regulation so that you can keep bringing yourself back down. This is the other thing that I think is important to remember. Nervous system regulation doesn't have to be, and a lot of times with perfectionism in general, we kind of put this filter over everything. I'm going to do this really well one time and then it's going to last me all day long. And that's just not how your nervous system works. And so if you're running into time frustration, also cutting down your nervous system regulation to like 30 to 60 seconds at a shot and doing more of it rather than trying to figure out how you're going to do a 30 to 45-minute morning practice that's going to last you all day is going to be more effective. And so, where in your schedule can you naturally identify when this thing is over, I'm going to do a nervous system regulation practice? And honestly, make a game of it of how short can they be and how often can I do this for myself, so that you're consistently all day long giving yourself these little hits of nervous system regulation, so that while the world is going on, it is affecting you in the least aggressive way possible.
I want to also add on that it is important that at the end of these days, when you are seeing that you are safe, this is one of the things that's been left out of literally all of the, there's a be all of the, sorry, ADHD in real time. There is, it's left out because we didn't know this is how brains work. And so your brain is not reacting, your body is not reacting to the environment. And this is relatively new research. It is responding based on your past experiences plus your current circumstances. So here's why this is so valuable for you to know about this experience in particular. This is actually an opportunity for you to give your brain better prediction opportunities. Because in these moments, when you're hearing things, I would assume that you're hearing things. That's what I think of when I hear about apartment neighbor drama. Yeah, you're hearing things. It's yelling, it's loud music, it's whatever it is. Your body, and if it's audible, then you're probably feeling some of it as well. If you're sensitive like I am, you can feel the sounds in the house, like you can hear electricity. And so you want to, at the end of each day, lock in with nervous system regulation, journaling, telling somebody some physical manifestation of what the truth is. I felt this way, but then this is what actually happened. I felt this way, but then this is what actually happened. I was safe. I was safe. I was safe. Nothing happened to me. I'm still able to do what I need to do. I'm still able to have full agency. I still have full autonomy. When we can feed the brain body loop new data, it can then predict more accurately about how to prepare for the next thing. So over time, your body and your brain are going to predict differently if you keep doing this practice. It will no longer react so strongly that it's so distracting for you to not be able to do the work that you need to do and to move forward. And so in order for this nervous system regulation to do more than calm you in the moment, you also need to, at the end, lock in, oh, I felt this way, I thought these things, but the truth is I actually experienced this reality. That part is long-term healing. The nervous system regulation in the moment and being present and mindful is helpful for the moment. But if you want to do both, that's how you lock in long-term rewiring of what your body's going to predict, what your brain's going to predict. And so we're going to be talking a lot more about this because I'm nerding out on it right now, about how we have misunderstood the brain and how we react and respond to things. But this is the basis of it, that you are given an opportunity, although it's annoying, to rewire how you're going to be predicting your experiences going forward. And so the work is literally just locking in and the day journaling. I felt these things, but this is actually what happened. Nobody bothered me. No one interrupted my work. No one took away my autonomy, my agency. No one physically hurt me. No one emotionally hurt me. Like, your job is to say, I'm actually safe. Like, feeding your brain, like, look, yes, I understand you're predicting, but like, we're actually fine. We're actually fine, over and over and over and over again. And when you've discovered there isn't something fine, if there isn't something fine, then you address that. But the reality is, if it's not physically impacting you and no one's asking you to emotionally be involved, and it's an external trigger situation, then you get to retrain your brain to think differently.
Katie said that she just ordered a pair of the loop
I just saw
earrings, and one of our village members a while ago actually ordered those, and she loved them. And so
sometimes they have payment plans for those if you are looking at them on different sites. Okay.
Katie,
yep. Lisa, do you have follow-up questions about what specifically to do to make that happen? Drop that in the chat, or if you want to verbally chat. I forgot we shifted a little bit in our starting to do that. Katie, also, if you want to talk it out, we can do that too. Boundaries. My partner has some money anxiety and gets overwhelmed easily, so I often plan and proceed without him, which creates more anxiety when I spring things on him when it's final decision time, or so it turns out. How do I engage him in the conversation but not derail the process? Woo, do we have experience with this? Do you want to start, since I was the one with the money anxiety, how you handled it?
No, go ahead.
So a couple of things with this. Again, talking about this past prediction or the past behaviors and understanding in his nervous system and his brain, whatever it was in his past that created anxiety about what's happening with money, it's going to have to be the two of you working on the new plan going forward together, right? So springing on him, the way you said it, probably isn't actually doing the thing, but you're doing the best you can with what he was able to handle beforehand. So that makes sense. So this is going to be one of those multiple drafts moments where you say, okay, this didn't work. What could have happened differently for you? If I told you on Tuesday we need to talk about it on Thursday, is that going to make you spin out from Tuesday to Thursday, or is that going to give you an opportunity to like get your head wrapped around it? Also, I don't know why we're not doing this. I'm gonna ask you to unmute. Well, and I think it's important also to acknowledge that his interpretation of it being sprung on him is based on a triggered response, right? Like, spring on it. I used to tell Brian all the time, I wasn't ready for this conversation. He goes, I know we weren't having the conversation until right fucking now.
How the hell was I supposed to prepare you for this conversation?
But it's a very real thing. And the more that we're learning about neurodiversity and ADHD in particular, it does feel like an assault to the system. And so figuring out how to marry both parts and needs in the conversation is a journey that we will forever be on.
So
yeah,
I'm gonna tell you, like, honestly, one of the things that I would do, because Tasha was the one for a while that had like some really intense money anxiety.
Until a year and a half ago, it was still debilitating in many ways.
The way in which I approached it was, at some point in time in the next, and then I would give her a time frame, like next 5 days, we have to have this conversation because there are things that we need to talk about. Nothing is urgent, but we want to talk about it now. Which day would be good for you? And so if he has money anxiety and it so far in your relationship has left the money conversation to be something you handle in the background, and then when it's time, you're like, here's everything that I've figured out. I think one of the things that, at least in my experience, I think one of the things that potentially happens there is it feels like things are moving too fast. Because, well, you've already figured it out, but I don't have time to process it. Now we've got to make a decision right now. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't know that I'm ready to do that. I need to sit on this for a little while. And so recognizing one, what is your system, Katie? So that when you go to make these decisions, you can say, I'm in this phase of this system of my decision-making process. I'd like to share some of what I'm doing with you. If that's okay, what day would that be good for you? And then when you get to the next, if like let's be ridiculous and pretend you're gonna go buy a house. So if you're in the decision-making process of buying a house, then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go look for houses. Do you want to come with me? Yeah, what day would be good for you? And then he goes with you and you look at things that you've already picked out, and then he goes home and you're like, thanks for the input. And then you go back to the next phase of the thing and you're like, now I'm going to go look at our actual budget and I'm going to break down what's possible. When I figure that out, when would it be good for you that we sit down and we talk about that? And so if his money anxiety keeps him from being able to make actionable choices, and that's your role in your relationship, that's perfectly fine. I would just encourage you to bring him along on the journey, to give him little updates so that when it comes time to make a final decision, he feels like he's been on the ride but hasn't had to drive. And now you both are working with the same information. And so it likely will not be as overwhelming because of the fact that he was there for the whole journey, even if he didn't have to make any of the decisions.
I would ask you to ask him what kind of updates he wants and how frequently.
Yeah.
Because that was part of our nuance. Like, I used to get really stressed out and anxious about Brandon making phone calls about renegotiating debt and rearranging payment plans and all those things. And if I could hear him doing it, I would just sit and listen the whole time because I was so anxious.
Right.
Doesn't serve anybody, because then I was just twitching by the time he got out of the phone call. This is all my own shit having nothing to do with what actually is going on. But also we have an agreement that we make financial decisions together. Like, it was for a long time I was doing it, and then Brandon was doing it, and then I was doing it, and realized none of those things are working, and so we need to do it together. But it needed to operate in a way that wasn't how we had seen or how we had done it before. So we'd like kind of reinvent the wheel for our relationship and what it was. The updates that I needed were, what is happening right now? Like, what is the danger to our money right now? And what is it that we have to do or sacrifice going forward to meet this expectation by some fucking bill collector or merchant or whatever? So those were the specific questions that I was stressed about. When Brandon kept coming to me to have the conversation, say, well, this is what we're going to do. I handle this. This is what they're going to need. I'm going to call them back and negotiate this on this day. And this is just what this is. Over time and lots of repetition, I was able to say, oh, I don't have to be stressed about this, because every time we do this thing, we're fine. Part of it too, and I know he's very open to the work that we do collectively, and I would ask you to ask him, if you don't already know, to write down the things he's actually scared of, like doing Carl's list, because then you'll be able to see what are the anxieties that you can then speak to proactively when you're giving him updates. So whatever, each of us have our own, I think there's like 7 different layers of money trauma that we could have. We all have different combinations of them, and it's a fucking shit show once you start digging into that. But if you know what his actual worries are, then you can say, here's what I did about that specific concern, and here's what I know evidence-wise that's going to not make that an issue for us going forward.
Also, I think it's really important to remember, excuse me, that when you're dysregulated, you forget shit. Like, Tasha and I, at one point in time, like, the same shit was happening and I was handling it the same way, and it never didn't work. And we got to a point where there was like a break in this bill cycle that we were in, and everything was pretty calm for like a couple of months, and then shit kicked back up. And I remember Tasha saying, well, like, aren't you worried? Like, what is gonna happen if this happens? Aren't you worried? I was like, no. And she's like, why? And it's like, because we did this exact same shit 3 months ago. Like, I know what's going to happen because we already did it. But even though I was doing it and I was continuously informing her and keeping her in the loop, the dysregulation of her nervous system just erased all memory of the last 3 successful experiences we had. And so one of the things that I would also encourage you to do is open up the floor to questions that have nothing to do with basically the work that you did. So like, tell me what you're scared of.
Yeah. And that practice of him writing it down will
Like-
help you ask questions when he's feeling dysregulated, because he won't be able to access all of those questions necessarily in the
And
moment.
it was mind blowing when Tasha said, "But what are we gonna do?" And I'm like, "What the fuck do you mean? What are we gonna do? I'm gonna rinse and repeat. Like we're just gonna keep doing this until it doesn't work anymore." And so recognizing that like he's scared of something, and it may be something that you're like, "Oh, that was handled,"
Yeah.
but because of the fact that he is dysregulated by money, and you talked about it 3 weeks ago, and it's not been handled enough in his life for it to not be a problem anymore, it's always still a problem, whatever it is. And so getting really clear and saying, look, I'm not judging. I'm going to hold as much space for you as physically possible. Just let it go. Like, let me know everything you're scared about this situation so we can talk it through. Because it's just ambiguity. Like that's really, I mean, really when it comes down to it, when and anybody on this call that is asking any question, if fear is part of the equation, it's just ambiguity. And sometimes it's not even ambiguity of like, I need to know the exact answer, but it's ambiguity of how I feel or what I feel the situation is actually holding. Like, I just don't understand what's happening. And then we panic because if I don't understand what's happening, just like what Tasha was saying before this, where our brains are responding to previous experiences, if I don't know what's happening and I don't have a previous experience to go back to say, even in this most fucked up experience, I did this, that, and the other thing to make it safe. Well, now I'm in an experience where it's just fear. That's just straight up dysregulation with no direction.
Well, and there's learned recently that when you don't have a pattern to follow, maybe his history with money, like it was for me, is there's a lot of chaos. Like there's no pattern that he was able to predict in childhood with money. Like sometimes it was fine, sometimes it was really bad, and you saw your parents or caregivers having very extreme experiences, and there didn't seem to be a pattern that a little kid brain could put together. And so then there's no ability to predict. And so by you deciding how this is going to, how you're going to, both of you together, draft out how these conversations can evolve going forward, you're going to be able to actually create a prediction, an accurate prediction machine of his brain about this money stuff. So it'll start to actually feel less scary because he'll have a pattern to fall on, and you'll be able to see the pattern creating that you're creating together. And then together you'll fine tune what the pattern needs to be based on the false past predictions that his brain is trying to make.
So Katie, I also want to point out something. If his go-to in situations is let's cut back.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
There's also something in there that you can start, the two of you can start to like investigate of like, are we cutting back because of the amount of work we're going to have to do to make this happen? Like, is his nervous system at a point where the idea of we can make it happen if we do more work, but I don't have the capacity to do more work. And that might be where let's cut back comes from.
Right.
It may not be, I don't feel like it may not be, I don't feel confident that we're capable of doing it. It may be, I don't feel confident that I have the capacity to do more than what I'm doing.
Or in my circumstance in this a couple of years ago is I'm not willing to sacrifice what I had to sacrifice to achieve that financial money income that I did the last time. I wasn't willing to sacrifice, do more and more and more, because the story I had was in order to make that kind of money, I had to have stress around the kids all the time. I had to have canceled dates with Brandon. I had to end up in bed, being bed bound and losing both businesses. So I was like, a hard pass on the making more money. We're going to just cut back. And so it took a lot of work for both of us to like figure out where this is all coming from. But it's, I mean, that's exactly what we worked through is I wanted to like cut back scarcity, like can't spend any money, can't get new things, can't. When in reality is I also was scared about running into burnout again. And so once we worked through the rewiring of some of these prediction systems, both of us actually have healed a lot of money layers that we didn't know we had because we were working together about listening about where that discomfort was coming from. And also, honestly, where the other person was like, I'm not worried about that. And we're like, maybe you should be a little worried about that. And so those are the things that the conversations that you'll be able to start having in maybe a little bit of a different way.
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
just one thing. I wanted to touch on the part where you said it felt like for him, it was sprung on him. I would just ask you to, when you are bringing the conversation to him, let there be an understanding that there's going to be like a 24-hour window of him being able to process without having to make a decision in that immediate conversation. Like maybe start the conversation with, we don't have to make a decision in this moment, but by tomorrow at noon, I'd like to have like another conversation so we can hash out what we're going to do. Because that immediate, like right now, we have to do this right now. One is an ADHD trigger, just in how our brains work from what I'm learning. And also it is not effective for you to have a conversation with someone who's already dysregulated to say, we have to make a decision. No, right fucking now. And he's like, blah, nope, can't do it. And so that might be a useful first draft of decision-making process as well.
Speaking to your relationship right now, I want to point something out. The slowest person sets the pace of where we're going so that everybody can keep up.
That is not easy for the fast pacer.
And what's weird when you have money trauma, and I'm speaking from our experience. So for a period of time, because of Tasha's chronic illness, she was like, we are not exporting more. More is not the vibe. I can't do it again. I don't want to be in burnout again. If the things we want equal the price that I just had to pay, I don't fucking want them. And also at the same time, she wanted our life to be easier, which meant we had to work more. And so there was this weird juxtaposition of, I don't want to do any more shit and I don't want to work harder, but I'm also not happy where we are and I'm frustrated by it. And so as a unit, we had to slow down a little bit on our collective goals so that we could dial back the intensity so that we could create a foundation so we can move forward. That has nothing to do with you personally. You are a very driven person and you have your shit together and you want to go do more. And you're constant, as a business owner, you are constantly just so impressively always trying to figure out how you can grow your business without overextending your own personal capacity by delegating and hiring out. And I am in awe of it all the time. In your relationship, though, in your house, it might be time to have a conversation about what your collective goals are for your family, for your home. I know you guys are doing some refinancing because down the road, there's a plan to sell. For your collective goals, though, it might be worth having a conversation saying, hey, are we going too fast? Not that we don't want any of this shit, but also, are we trying to go too fast? And if his answer is yes, then you have to hear that. Because otherwise, this is going to turn into something, it's going to turn into a different conversation. And it was something that Tasha and I navigated for a long time while she was really sick, because she was the person going, oh my God, our life is moving too fast. And I was the person working 3 jobs trying to keep our life afloat. And so I was like, we've got to get the fuck out of the situation. This is horrible. Like, we need to do these things. We need these goals. And she was like, I can't even have this conversation. Yeah. And so we had to come together and realize, okay, we still as a couple have goals, but right now, maybe they need to be a little less intense. Maybe they need to be a little smaller because of the capacity of the group.
Well, and I would say, if I could like magic wand both of you in this, the little bit I know about your hubby, is he needs time to recover from burnout. And you can do the prep work. Since you have the drive and you have built-in capacity, you can do the prep work of where you guys want to go and let him rest and include him in the fun parts for right now. And the parts that, and this is going to be again where he has to really tune in and say, this was fun until it wasn't. Like, this conversation of like where we get to go next was fun until I started feeling anxiety, and then it became too overwhelming. That conversation can be where you guys go after you figure out what some of the goals could be. I will tell you, in our experience, setting goals from a place of burnout is terrifying if you're in burnout because you overdid it, because you overworked, because you were expecting too much, because you're operating from trauma, all those things. And so it took a lot of massaging and a lot of co-regulation walks for us to figure out how Brandon could have a bigger vision and I could find my space in my milestone towards that same vision, because him talking about the big vision was so overwhelming for me because of the stories I had about what would require for us to get there and how far away it felt. So I mean, obviously this is a big conversation and we'll keep having it in the village and whatnot, but these are some of the things that we just did not know how to handle because we didn't understand how the nervous system was reacting.
Yeah, this is a great, like, Katie, this is a really great thing for you to identify. Like, really good job. And now you can get this before it gets too far down the road, and you both get frustrated and confused. And it's one of the reasons why it's so important to have regular conversations with your partner, whatever that may be, business or personal, if you have shared goals. Because at some point in time, for somebody, it got too big, or it moved too fast, or it got too overwhelming, or it got less fun than we thought it was going to be. And so it's time to talk about scale, or it's time to talk about pace, or it's time to talk about reevaluating. Hey, I've been on my own path here for a little while, and I don't know that I still want to go down this road. But all of that stuff is where a lot of money scarcity comes from, is this underlying, like, I don't know that I'm ready, or moving too fast, or I'm
I don't know if I
overwhelmed.
can meet
Right.
that expectation, which is the part I had. I can't meet the expectation of what I believed at that time would require me to do the thing that you want to do. And that feels like I was letting him down. I didn't want to honestly get halfway there and then crash again. Like there were so many other side conversations that were happening in my mind that I couldn't necessarily identify at the time. So kudos for you for bringing this up so that you guys can figure out how to go forward in a way that's more conducive for both of you, because this is not the last time you're gonna have a money conversation.
Yeah.
And you both deserve to feel safe in the process. So let us know what comes up from that.
I also think it would be valuable for you to just ask the question of him, when you, Katie, talk about all the things you're doing with your work and all the stuff you want to do, is that creating for him any kind of anxiety of like, oh my God, I've got to keep up with her? Or, oh my God, she's moving so fast. Is she expecting me to keep this pace? Because I know a lot of the time, like Tasha on any given day can outwork me as far as just hours. And there's a lot of the time where I'm like, God, is she expecting me to keep this pace with her? And the reality is, like, because we work differently, I get a similar amount of work done in a different amount of time than Tasha, just because we recharge differently. But I did hold a lot of anxiety for a while, feeling like I was supposed to match pace with Tasha, who genuinely had a desire to do shit that I don't have a desire to do. Like, she really likes doing certain things with this business for a lot longer than I do. I love our business. I love these calls. I love coaching our clients, but there's shit that I would rather spend no time on that Tasha has an enormous amount of capacity for. And so I think just also bringing that up, like, are you feeling like you're supposed to keep pace with me outside of our home? Could be a valuable conversation.
Thanks for bringing that up, Katie. Okay, so Desi says, when I get home, I go straight to bed, and all weekend I'm in bed, just living life awake, but from the bed. And I want to move the lounging to the living room with the kids, but I don't know what's stopping me. Yes, you do. I have ADHD and a bad back and get overstimulated when the kids are around me bickering. So I think that's maybe why I avoid it, but really it just seems like I got in the habit of it and don't know how to interrupt the habit loop. So both things can be true, right?
Yeah.
And it's important that you understand and remember that the habit of going to your room is a habit and it is serving you in some way. If your kids are overstimulating because they're kids, I can't remember how old your kids are, Desi. If your kids are overstimulating you, well, let's rephrase that. The kids aren't overstimulating, you are overstimulated, right? 11 and 17 and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it sounds like, one, there's some boundaries that can be worked into them in your space. If they're going to argue, they have to go outside, they have to go the fuck down the road, something like that. Like that is a thing that will quickly end it because nobody wants to leave for what they're doing. But also, are there things, if you're lounging in the living room, what does that do for you? What is the story you have about what being in there lounging versus being in your bedroom lounging would do for you? Do you feel like it's going to be making you more connected to the kids? Does it feel like you're going to be more available, a better mom? Like, is there a story about you being a good mom? Okay.
So what activities equal quality time with the kids?
Because more time is not the solution.
Right.
More time with the kids is not it. Movies usually.
Okay. And that's where your capacity is anyway, right? On the weekends? Okay. So I'm going to tell you that there's a likelihood that there's more should in this desire than there is desire in this desire.
Mm.
If you know that your kids bicker and shit, and that's overwhelming and overstimulating, and then you're also having this fight with yourself of like, I want to be out there to be with them, but being out there to be with them is overstimulating because they bicker. That is a should. I should be out in the living room with my kids because I'm home and it's the weekend and they're here. And as a good mom, I should spend more time with them. It doesn't sound like they're fun when they bicker and they're overstimulating. And that's not all the time. It's just while that's happening. And so instead of it being this like, as a mom, I should be out there with them. As a person who needs to heal, you want to spend quality time with your children. And there are certain pockets of time and certain activities that allow you to have that outlet. Instead of just blanketing it with, I'm going to go sit out here and be around while this shit happens and get overstimulated and dysregulated. Identify like, hey, children, at 11 o'clock, let's watch and then fill in your favorite movie that you know they like, that they won't bicker through, or fill in your favorite game that you know they enjoy, that they won't bicker through. And let the time frame that you spend with your children be that. And then after that experience, you can decide, do I want to be out here anymore? And then when your kids start bickering, you can go, fuck nope. And then you go back to your bedroom and you allow yourself to dial back down from that stimulating experience. But it's a stimulating experience that is not just regulating. And that's the trick. Because everything's stimulating. But is it stimulating and dysregulating, or is it stimulating and regulating? And spending quality time with your kids doing something you know they enjoy, doing something that you know you enjoy doing with them, is regulating. Just doing shit with your kids to do shit with your kids because that's a memo we got about being parents, is that we've got to be their best friends while they treat us like lepers, is not the fucking vibe. Like, fucking awful. Unsubscribe.
Unfollow, mute. So Desi, one of the biggest shifts for me when I was having this with our kids is going from working all the time to, and we had a quality time when I was overworking, but I was sacrificing any kind of recovery time for myself, which is, as you know, not effective, didn't end well. Decide how much time based on your cycle phase and your capacity from the week. In the morning, what do I have the capacity for today? What do I feel excited about doing? If I only have 2 hours with the kids, because that's what I have the capacity for, what is it that I would like to do and enjoy with them? And tell them. Don't make this fucking secret.
Yeah.
They're 11 and 17. They're old enough to understand that this is how relationships work. You're also, and I want to reinforce this because I think a lot of moms, working moms who work like the 9-to-5 schedule, get the memo that when you're not working, you should be spending all of your free time with your kids because you want to be a good mom. Truly, at the ages of 11 and 17, what our experience has been is that they don't want and don't need and will not benefit long term from that experience with us. In addition to, and this is a different conversation that you didn't ask about, so we won't dig into that today, but in addition to them having responsibilities to contribute to the household, like cooking dinner and cleaning up dinner and cleaning and stuff, so that you can rest and be available for them to do the quality time stuff, they need to be busy with their own activities after being refueled and supported and safe with you. If you are, and I don't know if this is your reaction, but with me, I found myself getting agitated and irritable, and I would end up being short, and then I would shut down because I didn't want to be mean to the kids like my mom was to our, my siblings and me. And so it was sending all these really uncomfortable mixed messages to my kids about how I wanted to spend time with them. And it's a conversation regularly where Brandon now will say, I hear that you want to spend the evening with the family, but I'm looking at your face and it doesn't look like you're really have the capacity to do that. And so starting to check in with yourself of like, what is going to make this a positive experience for all of us? Not that they're not going to bicker, not that you're not going to be annoyed with them because your nervous system is dysregulated, but understanding that this is a process for you and for them to recalibrate on what it means to be hanging out with mom. And you can decide that there are 3 hours on a Saturday and 3 hours on a Sunday that is dedicated quality time. And when you are not in there, as long as they have clear instruction on what is allowed and not allowed in the house, you can close your door and actually get the rest that you need so that you can start building your capacity back over time. Because the way that you described it now, there's no way you're recovering. You're just barely maintaining survival. And your back is going to feel better the more you rest, the less stressed you are.
You're also going to have a much more enjoyable relationship with your kids if they understand the expectation of the relationship with you.
And the expectation more specifically of that quality time.
Right.
And the time that you're not available.
And so, like, don't make it a secret. Like, they're 11 and 17. And so they're very capable of understanding that people have shit to do. And that when people have shit to do, it's not a direct relationship to their feelings for you. Like, I'm not spending time with you because I hate you. I'm not spending time with you because I'm working so you can eat food. Like, those are two different experiences. And so you being able to tell your kids on the weekends, I want to be able to watch a movie and I want to be able to play a game with you guys. I really love doing it. I would love for you guys to be able to dial in on Friday night or Saturday morning. We can figure out when those times are, but those are the things that I want to do with you guys. The rest of the weekend, I need to recover because I do all of this work. And let them know. Like, I mean, honestly, how great would it be to have a parent who predictably showed up and the kids understood the intention of the actual experience? They will take that over a drive-by hangout session that is unpredictable and they don't know when they're getting it back any day.
So I want to offer some other options for you to kind of mull over, not necessarily to do this coming weekend, but having some touch points throughout your weekend also. So maybe, you have the 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon on a Saturday, for example, where you're going to do a game and a movie. And that is where the guidelines are set. Everybody has their phone put away. You're present, you have fun music on, maybe you have some fun snacks. Like, let the kids contribute to this. And so it's not you guiding and having to construct a whole event, but let that be the thing. And then maybe in the morning when you go get your coffee or when you're going to grab your breakfast, you spend 10 minutes checking in with them. How'd you sleep? What are you doing today? How are you feeling? Like, there's a 10-minute window where you have checked in and done the mom thing. And then you say, okay, great. I will see you at 2 when we are going to put the phones away and have game time, watch a movie.
I also want to encourage you to, like, not live in the confines of what we find to be socially acceptable for when you're supposed to spend time with your family. Like, you're supposed to have family dinners together. But if by 6 o'clock you're so fucking tired you can barely keep yourself awake, then have brunch and make that your thing that you do with your kids on a Saturday or a Sunday. Like, we're not having dinner together tonight. You guys are fucking on the couch watching a movie together. But right now, in the middle of the day, the 3 of us are having this meal together and put music on. Do whatever it is you guys find fun. But, like, don't get so trapped in order for it to be good, we have to do this. Find the time and use the time. And don't worry about what other people are doing with their kids when. Like, that was one of the things, and it's something that we, like, rework regularly in our house, is like, by the end of the day, everybody's overstimulated and overtired. And so a lot of the times we don't have the capacity to have a family dinner together, especially on busy weeks. And so we make a point, because we have the luxury of both of our kids are home all the time because we unschool, like, we have brunches on Thursdays and Fridays a lot of the time. Because that's when everybody's in the same space, because it's the middle of the day, the energy is different, everybody's in a good mood. We kind of make a thing out of making the meal fun by just having non-traditional middle of the day food. But, like, work outside the box and work with your capacity.
I would also say, Desi, tell them what you're trying to do. Like you said, that's a good idea. Good heads up for them too. One of the things that I wish I had known to do sooner. I I think I learned somewhere along the lines that as the mom, I needed to be the one that made the plan, executed the plan, made sure everybody had a good time, made sure it was exactly what everybody needed, not just what I needed, not just what one kid needed. Like there's a lot of these rules about pressure about me creating the experience. But the reality is that I was creating experiences based on what I thought they expected for it to be a good experience. And the reality is that they didn't need a lot of those things. And so ask them, if we're going to spend 3 hours together on a Saturday, I like this game. I like, watching these movies with you guys, or there's a new movie coming out that maybe the three of you are looking forward to. What else could we do to make that fun where it's just the three of us doing our thing? Because the rest of them will be resting. And so, like you said, it's good for them to have a heads up too. It's the most important thing for them to have a heads up. They have appropriate expectations, then you can't disappoint them. And a lot of the pressure that you have about being on and where you should be and how you should be spending time comes from you assuming that their expectation is different than what you're doing. And I promise you, they are expecting way less from you than you are expecting from you. And so, and not in a you've shown over and over again that you can't deliver, but in the kids don't need nearly as much as of the perfect parenting than as we think that they do. And so I really think maybe the first step for you is telling them today, this weekend, we're gonna have a family meeting, we're gonna have brunch, lunch, whatever, and we're gonna talk about how the weekends are gonna work for the next couple of weeks. Then you'll have a draft mode and check in, but like telling him I need to rest on the weekends. My back needs to do some recovery. I want to make sure I get to hang out with you guys because I actually like you. And these are the things I'm thinking. What do you think?
This is going to give them permission to take care of themselves too. Like your openness about I need to rest and this is the time that I want to spend, it's showing them how to take care of themselves and have a relationship.
The other thing I would invite you to do is let them be in charge of the food and the movie and the game and say, hey, I don't have it in me this weekend. I need you guys to do our game and video setup, decide the theme for the food. You guys make the snacks, whatever it is, and let that be something that happens somewhere in the future, not necessarily right away, depending on how well they work together. But anyway, do you feel like you have some actionable things, Desi? What are your next steps? Excellent. You're welcome. Chat. Excellent.
Yeah.
Be honest about how you feel like you're letting them down or you're disappointing them. Like I was just actually writing about this weekend. It was one of the most freeing things I did 2 years ago is say to the kids, I feel like I'm fucking failing. Like I feel like I am just completely disappointing you left and right. And they were like, what in the hell are you talking about? Like, and I listed like 4 or 5 things that I felt like I had literally been consumed mentally by this for months. And they were like, that is not a thing. Like, that's not a thing. That never crossed my mind. I actually love it the way it is right now. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And so it's become a practice of mine. As soon as I identify a thing that I'm stressed out about, my kids are smart enough to hold that and say, okay, but it's not. And I've decided to trust them. And if they've lied, then that's their shit to deal with in therapy. So have the question, tell them what you want, and tell them the things you're worried about in terms of letting them down so they can say, what? Stop. No.
The other thing that I just want to point out here is not every time is going to be magical.
It's not going to be magical.
And that's okay because the goal is just to do it so that those not magical times actually can exist and show everybody it's okay that we don't have this, like, it's okay that everybody doesn't show up like ready to have a party. This is what spending time together looks like. And
if the intention is to show up as for connection rather
Right.
than to have a good time, then you're going to have much more realistic expectations. And afterwards, you're going to feel better about the experience. Because sometimes connection is not laughing. Sometimes connection is having a hard conversation.
Right.
And letting everybody breathe, let it simmer, marinate until the next day. And so sometimes it's addressing the elephant in the room that you didn't realize you guys weren't addressing because there's no time to actually have the conversations. And so if it's not connection, decide what your intention is, your objective is for these this quality time? What does that mean for you? How will you know that you've done that well? What does the experience feel like in your body? What are the touch points in those relationships that you wanted to navigate intentionally?
And honestly, I mean, you could even check in at the beginning. Like, let's say you guys all sit down for a game. You could just ask the both of them, like, hey, how are you feeling? And if one of them says not excellent, you can just let that sit and let them be safe saying, I just don't feel great today. Like I feel emotionally whatever. And still continue to connect. But not putting it on them also that when we do these things, it has to be the most fun we've ever had together.
It's a fucking Disney ride every time.
And let their emotions be known and heard and acknowledged without also it turning into a therapy session. So they're not afraid to share their emotions either. And so I just want to make sure that's really clear, like giving them permission to be people so that this doesn't turn into, for the three of you, oh fuck, now we've got to gear up to go have fun because it happens to be Saturday and this is when we watch movies and play games. Like, because that's not what you want.
Fun, damn it.
Yeah, because that's not what you want. And so just checking in and you being able to say, like, I'm really excited to be here with you two and do this. I'm also tired and I'm pretty overstimulated. So I think it would be great if we could try to keep the volume down. How are you feeling? And let that be known. And then it'll be a different experience rather than just trying to force your kids to shut up and watch a movie where they don't fight through it.
Make sure you update us in Circle.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other questions? Hi, Alyssa. You're welcome. If you have any other questions, we have 6 minutes left. Nothing. Love to hear more about having difficult conversations. Are there tips on how to be safe having a difficult conversation? For sure, man. If we get asked to do one thing over and over and over again, the most it's talking about how to do relationship conversations. Yeah, for sure. It's because there's literally nothing that doesn't touch. It's how we relate to each other is how we experience the world. It's how we learn how to be people. It's how we learn what we can and can't do. It's how we learn what we're good at. And so how to have difficult conversations is really important. I think I'll start with like 1 or 2 tips that I have learned, and then you can do that. And
Yeah.
we can close out. So one of the things that I wish I had known sooner is that the difficult conversation, the goal of the difficult conversation isn't to win or be right. It also isn't to everybody be on the same page and agree.
Katie. Don't worry about you sometimes, Katie.
She's doing okay with her approach though. A couple things. All right. There's so much that's flooding my mind now with this question, Lacey. So knowing what your intention is going into the conversation is really, really powerful. And we don't know that oftentimes until we've done it poorly a bunch of times. Like I used to go into the conversation thinking we were going to clear things up. And what I actually was going into the conversation was to show you how wrong you are, how we should do it my way.
We were clearing things up. Clearing up that your way was 100% wrong and my way is 100% right.
Yes, that was what my undercurrent of the intention of the conversation is.
Glad we got the memo. What
we have learned is when you are regulated, you can actually go into a conversation trying to understand what the other person is coming from, where they're coming from, what they're trying to accomplish and what their objectives are. And nothing has been more effective than trying to understand where each other is coming from and then trying to communicate to the other person what isn't clear to them about how you're feeling, what you are looking for. And so when we are dysregulated, we're just telling each other facts. We're just telling each other strategies. We're just telling each other the ways that it's been and why isn't it doing this way. But when we're really like engaged and co-regulated beforehand or regulated in advance, The questions are, okay, tell me more about that. I don't understand what you mean. What is it you're looking for? What is the problem we're trying to solve? That's a really good question. What is the problem we're trying to solve here? Because we find ourselves having conversations and we're like, wait, what are we even talking about right now? Nervous system regulation, always going to be beneficial for difficult conversations. Taking a walk while you're having difficult conversations, if possible, or doing something co-regulating is really important. And going into the conversation, trying to understand the other person are my 3 tips that took me 4 minutes to get to.
Yeah, I think understanding and collaboration is the thing that you're working towards. And so one of the only things that I remember from college that someone actually said out loud was your job is to understand people, not correct them. And so
I did not get that memo until about 5 years ago.
Well, I went to art school. We learned how to collaborate. And so your job is to understand people, not correct them. And one of the things now that I am further from that, from receiving that information for the first time, one of the things that I find that is really amazing that's baked into that is what are we trying to do so that we can support each other doing it? Like, I don't necessarily need to correct you that your way is wrong, but if I can understand where you're coming from, then I have more information and we're building something more completely. What are we building? Is a question that I ask all the time. Like, are we building anything? Because if we're not building anything, then this is just an exercise. And if it's an argument, then it's not a fun exercise that we need to have. But like, what are we building? And the only way that we're going to be able to build is we have more information. We have an understanding of what your expertise and what your skill set is, and what my expertise and my skill set is, and how do we bring those two pieces of information together? And so with a challenging conversation or difficult conversations, coming to the experience where the goal isn't anything other than I want to understand you, no matter what the outcome is, the actual journey is going to be much more calm. And also, if you are having a conversation with someone that you consider to be a partner of any kind, business partner, romantic partner, friend partner, whatever that is, theoretically, you two are working towards the same goal anyway. And you're just coming at it from different experiences. And so being able to out loud identify, these are the things that I feel like I'm really good at in this experience. This is the thing you're really good at. How do we bring these two pieces of information together? Because I don't need to know everything. I just need to know what I know, and then I need to understand what you know so that we can put those two things together.
There's a difference between difficult conversations with people that you're trying to build and strengthen the relationship with, and difficult conversations with someone that you're not sure where they fit on your in your inner or outer circle. And that's an important differentiation for you to make going into any kind of difficult conversation. Is my goal to create space from this person,
right,
or is my goal to deepen the connection we have? And sometimes you don't know that until you've tried to have the I'm trying to understand conversation, and the person is not trying to understand. And we see this with a lot of our clients who are navigating distancing from their family of origin. They're trying to understand and try to hold space and have compassionate curiosity with their family of origin, their parents, their siblings, but they are not receiving that back. And so at some point, because it can't be mutual, then it has to start, then it shifts from trying to deepen the connection to creating safe space and protecting the things that you feel vulnerable about and those kinds of things. The difficult conversation really matters about what your ideal version of this relationship is. If it's like a stranger or like an apartment neighbor who's annoying, that difficult conversation is not going to have the same prep and investment that someone that you're partnering with, or that you have a long-standing friendship with, or that you are hoping to have a long-standing relationship with. That's more about communicating boundaries. And those conversations are challenging as well, because we've been conditioned to be very careful about hurting other people's feelings, especially if you're female identifying. But the knowing what you want going into that conversation is really important. All right, friends, good questions today. Thank you for showing up with openness and vulnerability and sharing your question with others who clearly have gained a lot from that. There'll be portions of this put onto YouTube in the next month. So if you want to revisit it, make sure you are on our YouTube channel. It's the bottom of all of our emails. And if you have questions after that, shoot us a message on Instagram. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.